started by planing down some 2x4s to 1 1/8 inch thick. This also smoothed out the boards and removed the rounded corners that make them unmistakably 2x4s. After testing the fit on some scrap material, I ran each of the boards through the table saw to cut a groove down the length for the weather stripping to fit into. I then attached each board around the door opening to seal up the gaps. I also cut small blocks to go on either side at the top of the door frame. This gave the appearance of some kind of handcrafted cross-lap joint that I really didn't want to take the time to actually do. And I think it looks great. And I faked it, so don't tell anyone. I felt I needed more wood to later attach the plywood to, so I pocket screwed a few nailer boards about 2 feet in from both sides. This also helped to stiffen up the door frame, which it really didn't need. By the way, I estimate the door weighs probably around 9,000 pounds by this point, so I added more hinges, 10 in total. And I fear I need to replace them with even heavier duty hinges because I can't stop adding weight to the door. Next came the time I've been dreading most, fiberglass insulation, which I hate beyond words. Yes, I know it's important, and yes, I do have styrofoam I could have used, but I seem to enjoy punishing myself so I can ensure there's always something to complain about later. Actually, this insulation was a leftover cutoffs from the walls, and I figured I'd get better insulating value with it rather than styrofoam. I also added a vapor barrier, but you'll have to take my word for it because apparently my camera is needy and it actually needs me to push the record button. I even moved it around 5 or 6 times to capture different angles of my progress, and I never actually checked to make sure it was recording. Next, I cut down 2 sheets of 1/4 inch plywood to cover the insulation and create a solid flat surface to work off of. I painted the right and left sides with 2 coats of matte black paint, and once it was dry, I screwed the plywood to the door. I added a barrel bolt at the top and at the bottom of the door, which I find to be cheaper than hiring 24-hour security guards to make sure the door stays closed. Next, I framed the entire outer edges with some cheap wood strapping. Why strapping? Because it's cheaper than 1x material. The only downside is you're going to spend some time really sorting through the bins to find good usable wood. I cut the boards down so they'd be 3/4 inches thick by 1 3/8 inches wide, and then attached them with wood glue and pin nails. Then I went to work on the vertical slats. I used the same wood strapping and cut them to the same dimensions. I also inserted a 3/4 inch block between the slats to ensure even spacing during the install. Once the left side was done, I went to work on the right side. There were 20 slats total in addition to the frame. I used reclaimed fence pickets for the decorative center accent and ran them through the table saw to square up the edges. I thought it might look neat to have a decorative accent within the decorative accent, so I made a diamond. I started with the centerpiece and then glued and pin nailed boards with mitered edges to the sides. I used boards with differing widths to add a bit more character. And you know, because one just wasn't enough, I made a second decorative diamond to add to the first decorative diamond for the decorative accent portion of the wall. Each board was custom sized by holding it into position, marking where to cut, and then making that cut with a miter saw. All the wood pieces were, as you can imagine, glued and pin nailed into place. I kept glue and pin nail factories in business with this project. For the finish, I used 2 cans of Varathane polyurethane spray. Spraying this entire door was a bit obnoxious, but I was worried the black paint between the slats might transfer to the brush and then to the wood. So I figured the safe bet would be to exercise my index finger muscles and use spray finish. Once the polyurethane dried, the wood returned to its previous lighter tones. I'm pretty happy with the way it turned out. I mean, it locks closed, keeps the draft and the bugs out, and the insulation made a massive difference. Even right after the insulation part was done, I mean, just a noticeable difference. Plus it looks kind of cool, and I suspect the slats could add a bit of echo reduction within the shop. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope to catch you on the next episode of converting this shed into a shop. Until then, please take care and stay safe. Goodbye.